So now that we have quorum, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I'd like to say good morning. I'm Adele Imrie, Chair of the TCHC's Board Building, Investment, Finance and Audit Committee, and I'd like to welcome everyone to today's meeting. I would like to begin with an acknowledgement that the land each of us is on as we hold this virtual meeting is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. So today is our first hybrid BIFAC meeting, and it's taking place in person at City Hall and virtually via WebEx. And on behalf of the TCHC board, I'd like to thank all of the City of Toronto and Toronto Transit Commission staff who helped us make this transition from fully virtual to hybrid meetings. So we appreciate their assistance with today's meeting. So today, during the public session today, we have 6 reports that are brought forward for the committee's information and 1 item requiring our approval. These items are all outlined in the agenda that's been presented. When it comes to deputations, we are, as I mentioned, having a hybrid meeting, so we will modify slightly the process that we have previously established for voting and deputations. So during the course of today's meeting, members of the committee, whether attending in person or remotely, will be asked to vote by way of show of hands, and members of the public wanting to depute to an agenda item have the option to either submit a written deputation, which is distributed to the committee prior to the meeting, to participate in today's meeting and depute to the committee via WebEx, or verbally depute to the committee in person at today's meeting. I will indicate that we had no requests for deputations on any items on today's agenda. So if we could move on to the agenda, if I could ask if there are any additions or deletions to today's agenda. Okay, I can't see everyone, so I'm presuming Vince is okay with this. If I could ask if there are any conflicts of interest as it relates to any matters on today's agenda. Oh, no wonder I didn't. Oh, but I see Jag.
Yes, they can't hear us.
Oh. So we're good to go? Okay, I think we've lost quorum.
My apologies, Chair Emery. I thought Council.
I'm here, Chair.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So sorry, I can't see the tiles at all. So, oh, there you are.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We had a technical issue. They lost their room on the WebEx, but we're now up and running again.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So I don't have to start again, or no? Okay. So I asked if there were any additions or deletions to the agenda. Hearing none, could I ask if any members have any conflicts as it relates to any items on today's agenda? Okay, hearing none, could I ask if there are any items on today's agenda that any member would like to pull for further discussion? John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hold number 6 and
Number 6.
and number 8. No, sorry, number 9. 6 and 9.
number 6, and number 9B.
Number 9, I think it's number 9.
Oh, just number 9. Okay, sorry. I have an old agenda. Sorry. Vince, Narum, do you have any items that you'd like to pull?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Sorry, Vince?
No, I'm fine, thanks very much. Good.
Okay. I just had questions on number 11. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda, excluding items number 6, 9, and 11? John, seconder. Vince, thank you. All in favor? Okay, so we will move to item number 6. And I will turn this over to Dara.
Sorry, for context, the board has established a procurement awards committee through, as a subcommittee to the Building Investment Finance and Audit Committee. It has approval authority to award contracts through competitive process subject to certain conditions being met. It's required on a quarterly basis to report back to the Building Investment Finance and Audit Committee on awards that it has made with a value of between $500,000 and $5 million to, sorry, and it's $2.5 million up to the fourth quarter of 2022. And that's what this report provides.
Yeah, just a quick question. In regard to the
John.
chart on page 19, it's actually a general question, I guess. In quite a number of cases, we see the number of bids submitted and the number of envelopes opened. Can you just explain to me the discrepancy there? Just tell me what that means.
So vendors will submit a proposal to perform the work that's the subject of the RFP process. And we undertake a multi-stage assessment process that ultimately culminates in an assessment of the price. The vendor's price is only considered if they've passed the preliminary stages of the assessment process. So an opening of the envelope signifies that the vendor made it to the price stage. So in the first example, 9 bids submitted, only 3 made it to the stage where their price was submitted because they didn't satisfy earlier criteria that form part of the RFP process, so their bids weren't opened because they couldn't be considered.
So I guess the question from a procurement standpoint is there a recurring stumbling block for bidders that bidders don't get past the threshold of getting their bid to be reviewed?
It's a good question, and it's a question that we struggle with at the Procurement Awards Committee. From time to time, we're always concerned about why are we at a stage where we have a number of vendors who have submitted proposals, but their proposal hasn't met the criteria that's established in the RFP. I think it's fair to say the procurement staff work hard with the vendor community to make sure that they understand what the process is. And I mean, I think our experience is that a vendor in one procurement process will understand the process, get to the price stage, and on a subsequent process, they don't get to that pricing stage. So I don't know if there's any systemic issues there, but I can tell you it's an issue that is continues to be an issue that's significant for the committee. It's something we talk about on a regular basis.
And so one would, right, and I don't know what the solution is other than to try to make the whole bidding process simpler. Because one would think that when there are, this many bids, and the second one as well, there were 9 bids submitted, only 2 were reviewed, that there is the potential in those bids that are not, that do not meet the criteria to represent, you know, more efficiencies and savings for the corporation. And so, so I mean, is there a plan of action, or is there a process that is being undertaken for us to make bidding simpler and more acceptable?
And I don't know that I would necessarily, I mean, I think you can identify in the chart that there are or were some instances in October where we had a large number of bids submitted and only got to the pricing stage with a smaller number of vendors. But if you continue to look through to the latter part of the year, the numbers shift. I don't know if we've so that, you know, on that second page and third page of the chart, the number of vendors who are submitting bids and getting to a stage where their price can be considered is improved. So it may have been that in October there was something going on, but I don't know if it's an established trend that we need to deal with. Okay. We will continue to look at this issue. Okay. If we see trends that are problematic, we'll report them back to the committee.
And then just one caught my eye. Last question on page 20. There was a contract for $940,000, November 15th. It's for modernization. Just wondering what that meant. What the hell is that? Is that like new faucets and, you know, things like that? I guess
Sorry, Director, we're just getting you the details of that. Okay. If you give us 1 second.
Sure.
John, I'll also remind you that BIFAC asked for a report on strategic procurement, and it'll come to a future meeting. So then you'll have a lot more opportunity to discuss the issues and any I think a much more fulsome discussion is required on this topic, because clearly it's very important. So I just wanted to remind you.
So if you want to let me know subsequent to the meeting, that's fine, after the meeting. I just, you know, because if it's modernization in terms of making something look cosmetically more modern, I guess I would be a little bothered with that, when we could be spending money on elevators or something, you know. On the other hand, maybe it's upgrading equipment to make it more efficient. So I don't want to hold up the committee's time. If they want to get back to me with a response, that'd be great.
Through the chair, I can tell you that it's not modernization to make something look nicer. There absolutely would be, I'm just trying to get to the award here. It wouldn't be for an elevator modernization, I know that.
If you want to let me know after, you don't need to get into it right now or at the end of the meeting.
Certainly, I can provide it.
That would be fine, thank you. That was all the questions I had.
Okay, so are there any other questions or comments on item 6? Oh, sorry, Vince? Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just a clarification on one line item, page 21, that just over $1 million for engineering construction carport system on Tandridge Crescent. Yeah, I just want to understand what type of work is that? What are we doing? Are we building a new carport system? So what does $1 million entail?
Sorry, Councillor Grisanti, can you repeat the particular item that your question relates to?
Absolutely. So page 21, second last item, just over $1 million for engineering procurement, construction carport system on Tandridge Crescent. Just what does this work entail?
So through the chair, this work is to erect solar panels, which will be over part of the exterior parking garage so that we can use the solar to help supplement the electricity at that site.
Okay, so the expectation is there'll be substantial savings on hydro.
Correct.
So that's complete. All right, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was my only question. Yeah.
Are there any other questions on item number 6? Okay, hearing none, could I have a motion to receive the report in item number 6? John, thank you. Naram, thank you. Seconder, all in favor? Motion is passed. We will move on to item number 9, and I will turn this over to Alan.
Thank you, Chair Emery. Through the chair, item number 9 on the agenda provides an update on the reconciliation of the preventive maintenance and demand repair programs and elevator contracts for Q4 2022. All of the programs that are owned by facilities management have been reconciled for Q4 and were found to be in compliance, and no change orders are required. The reconciliation generally looks at forecasting future requirements so that if a change order is required, it would be brought forth to the appropriate approval body prior to the work being completed. Obviously, this is a Q4 reconciliation, so that closes out the 2022, but you know, as we start our 2023 reconciliations, we do forecast to determine if any changes are required so we can bring them forward in advance. This report's brought forward to BIFAC for information purposes.
John?
Sure. Can you explain what's COXX?
COXX is the budget envelope where demand capital repairs go through. It's just a budget category within the large overall capital program that TCHC has.
So those are urgent unanticipated capital repairs?
They would be urgent and smaller demand repairs too. I don't want to say that they're all urgent because there could be, but they are demand repairs that are required to be done. They can come through a number of different avenues.
So then on the chart on 35, we have, you've budgeted, or the actual will be 112 million, is that correct?
I think maybe we're on a different report.
So that report was pulled.
Oh, it was pulled.
Yes, it was pulled. So now item number 9 is just what was originally identified as B, which is the Q4
I
reconciliation.
saw that email, but I didn't act on it, so my apologies.
Oh, no, that's okay, but yes.
It's pulled, okay, that's fine, okay. I have no other. No.
So there's, I think there's additional work that needs to be done on the report, and it will come back.
I'll ask the question another time.
Yes, when it comes back in its new form, then
Yep, thank you.
Okay. So you didn't have any questions on what was originally B? Okay. Are there any other questions? The only request I would make is if 9B could include, I understand that there are some contracts that are included in demand maintenance that are part of operations. And I think the point of this was that we could anticipate the change orders and that they wouldn't be coming to us after the money had been spent. So if, I don't know who, Alan, would coordinate with operations to include those contracts in this report. Is that?
Through the chair, and yes, certainly I can work with Lily and her team in procurement to get a fulsome list, and then that way we can make a fulsome report on it.
Perfect, thank you. So if there are no other questions, could I have a motion to receive item number 9? Narum, thank you. Seconder, John, thank you. All in favor? Perfect. Motion is passed. And then I think we'll just move to item number 11, which is the internal audit reports. And I had a couple of questions, and it related more to the parking. And, I see parking as an area that could lead to additional revenue for TCHC if it's, the information is accurate and complete. And I just wanted to understand the impact of homes, because I know some of these recommendations were old. And then I was curious as to CSU's involvement with parking. I can understand enforcement, but, I don't know if tenants pay for the parking through leases, and I didn't understand how CSU was dealing with that. So I'm not sure who speaks to this.
I guess Nadia or Ellen can help us.
Through the chair, I'll speak to the second part of your question. Through the restructuring, we had prior to the restructuring, we had a centralized team that oversaw the administration of parking. Subsequent to the restructuring, with the removal of that centralized leadership, the parking team was then moved over to CSU for administration. So that's where the CSU connection now is. Al Britton, I don't know if you can speak additionally to the supports that CSU provides in terms of parking. The administration of it through the tenancy still continues to go through the regions.
Yes, good morning, everyone. And Chair Emery, just in answer to your question, CSU was assigned the parking portfolio in 2021. And as part of that, we were provided with some clerical staff. We built a structure within the unit to oversee many aspects. As you mentioned, there is the parking enforcement component. There's also the tenant parking. There's also the component of working with the regions to ensure that there's similarity through the governance across the portfolio. We've put that team together. We've worked at many of the recommendations, and 5 of the 6 are in progress. The 6th recommendation is something that we're still working with city staff, because enforcement of a third-party vendor within our portfolio is not in line with the current city municipal bylaw. So we're working with them to see if there's something we can do in that aspect. But right now we have, obviously, Toronto Police can enforce and Toronto bylaw, as well as our staff. So a third party would be difficult this time. But in regards to the CSU role, we are trying to establish very clear policies and direction to all aspects of the parking. But again, as spoken by the COO, we're in the position where we're trying to put it all together to make look for revenue opportunities where we can enhance the revenue, but also to ensure fairness across the board, because we found several discrepancies in how it's applied in East, West, and Central, and we're trying to work with the general managers to try and standardize that.
So if a tenant pays for parking through their lease, you have access to that information, and you're aware whether they're actually paying their parking, or I just curious as to what information you have access to, because I can understand that there's, people are paying daily parking, there's guests, there's, I don't know how the different lots work, but.
Yes, that's correct, Chair Emery. We do have access to that information.
Okay.
And the one problem that we have noticed is the arrears portion of tenant parking. There's not a clear and comprehensive process, and we're in the process of building one, because right now arrears is an issue that we found a deficiency in, and it's something we're going to work very closely with finance and with our general managers to rectify.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't naturally seem like a CSU function to me when it comes to arrears collection, and anyway, I do think it's a revenue opportunity for TCHC. I'm sure that there are, opportunities here that, people aren't paying for the parking that they're obligated to. So I think it is worth considering. So I would appreciate if you're working with the other areas to ensure that we make the most of our parking revenue. I know that there's an app, but there was no indication when it would go live, and I didn't think that Yardi had indicated that, and I'm just hoping that it is a priority.
Yes, Chair Emery.
So through the chair, through the chair, this did come up at the last Tenant Services Committee around a parking arrear strategy. So that is something that I've taken offline to work on with both the regions, the centralized teams, as well as CSU. So thank you for noting that, and we're already working on it. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you, and hopefully we'll hear about it in the future. Are there any other questions as it relates to item number 11? Okay, hearing none, I'm just making sure that all my questions were answered. Okay, I think the only other question I had is for Karim. I just wondered if the RGI auditors worked with OACH. That was one of the other items that was in your report.
We do review coordination between the staff and OACH. Some of the files that we cover under our various management projects in which we are supporting operations division do have that collaboration, and we will make sure that anything significant that comes out of that will be reported to ELT as well as to BIFAC.
And the other question I had was, is it possible when you make recommendations to rank them as far as like high risk or low risk, just so that we understand what the impact could be on the organization?
Certainly, it is possible. We have traditionally not done that, and this is in line with the practice also followed by Auditor General's office, but certainly it can be done.
So the Auditor General has no ranking?
No, as far as I know, they do not provide any ranking. They do provide recommendations only without, the severity of the impact. They do not provide that ranking currently.
Okay. Okay, so you're obligated to follow their lead. I guess my question is, if something is in progress for several years, I guess my concern would be if there's a high risk to the organization, then we would like it to be attended to. If it's low risk and gets deferred, obviously it's not of as great a concern.
So just to clarify, we are not obligated to, follow legally or otherwise. It's just that we follow best practices, and we have some, best practice examples in City of Toronto's Auditor General's office as well as Ontario's Auditor General office. We, frequently refer to their reports as a, like a best practice that they follow. Certainly, we can introduce this if it is so desired.
Okay, well, I certainly want you to follow best practices. It was just, if there is, anyway, if you could just consider it. And my last comment is to say congratulations to your team and all the professional development accomplishments. It seemed like they had a very productive year as far as professional development. So if there are no other questions on item number 11, could I have a motion to receive? John, Naram, all in favor? Thank you. And then I think that was the last item that was pulled. So could I have a motion to terminate the meeting? John, Naram, seconder. Thank you. All in favor? Great. Thank you very much.